And what happens when somebody grabs you? So you don't grab. Your hands should be pretty much wide and open when you're using them for facilitations. You want to be just putting your hands on certain muscles that you want to work, basically. If you're having to do, lay down on your back, put your knees up. So when you're doing the facilitations for the bridging, and I'll go through them, but I'm just trying to show you some hand holds. So I'm not gonna be able to like pull up with my hands like this, right? But I'm not gonna like grab him like this. I'm gonna try to get joint lines so that I avoid muscles and nerves. I wanna touch as least soft tissue as possible, because what I'm trying to do is give him some distraction this way. Now sometimes, if I have to, I'm gonna put palms kind of right on the tops of the knees here, and as least stimulation as possible, because my stimulation should be a pull down force this way. And these scrubs are the worst thing ever for this because they're slick. So your hands kind of slide right off of them, but it's okay. That's the force that you want. So depending on whether it's a single leg, double leg, sometimes a single leg you can get, but you're not gonna get here and pull, because I don't want to stimulate. I want to elongate the hip flexors. That is the point during the facilitation. So what I'm trying to do is get them to elongate the hip flexor. I'm not trying to stimulate I don't want to tell the glute to fire. I'm gonna have them do a glute squeeze before we start, remember? And then if they need assistance, the assistance I'm going to give them is try to get them to elongate the hip flexor. Okay? So, the hands are important, because if I go grabbing quads and if I go grabbing under here, that's all going to be like, right, that's how you're going to react. Right, so hands are important. Hands are very important when we're talking about neurofacilitation. Approximation, if I want him to have more approximation through the joints, it's going to be through the heels of your hands. Again, no fingers.
So is that what you're doing before the butterfly?
It's through the hip joint.
Okay.
So it'll be through the hip joint. We'll be going down through the hip joint. So it's through the knee, but what I'm doing is, I'm approximating down through the hip.
This is perfect. Now I can learn how to use my hands and not hurt people. Shout out Carly.
So, big hands, use the padded portion of your palms. You want them to be as unintrusive as possible when we're talking about neuro. Another thing, sit up on the side, just while we're talking about facilitation, which has nothing to do with this, but we're going over facilitation. Sometimes we will want to try to stimulate a muscle. So I might have him like trying to do a long arc quad, let's say, and I want to stimulate the quad. I can also use tapping. So I would say, okay, now try to do a long arc quad, and to try to get a larger contraction, then I could tap the muscle that I want to fire.
It was so weird seeing that happen.
Huh?
It's like they couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
But if you tapped them, they started. It was just weird because, if I do that to me, that does nothing.
Right.
But doing it on them and you see
makes a big difference. Yeah. So that's another way that we can facilitate. It's not in these exercises just because we don't have anything like that in there.
Yeah.
These are more about handholds.
Back to the point she just made. What if someone else did it though? Would it stimulate something for you?
Like if I do it on me.
No, I get that. But what I'm saying is, if someone else did it, because I feel like it's almost as if the same comparison to tickling. Like you can't tickle yourself because tickling is not actually tickling. It's your nerve impulse being sent to alert you.
Well, it also helps them think about that movement though. If they're touching themselves, where. the
True,
muscle
that's
needs
why it
to
would be
be.
called tickling,
It's
because
like
you know it's coming.
Kind of a mental thing to help them think about what they're trying to do, right?
Is that-
Well,
is
yeah,
that like-
and,
is that a
and
fair
it, well,
comparison?
it literally just, you're like, hey.
Wake up.
Wake up.
Yeah,
Time to do stuff.
yeah, I mean, so you're literally stimulating that muscle, and it's, so it is more aware, it's feedback for the brain to say, oh, that's what she wants. Okay. But yeah, it does help. So, so we can also use that form of facilitation, just since we're talking about hands at the moment. So that's another way. But every touch needs to be intentional. That's something that you really need to think about when you're treating neuro patients, is because sometimes their muscles are so open to interpretation that you can stimulate a response that you don't want, which is exactly why we do not use gait belts on neuro patients. Although you will be putting the thing on, because Capty says I have to have you put it on, it will not be used. So you have to don it loosely. It will not be snug like 120. It's there because the requirement says it has to be there. You will not touch it once you put it on.
Does Kathy make it that thing just so we can catch patients maybe or something?
But if I have a patient that has extensor tone and I put a gait belt on them and I go to pull up on that gait belt, I'm reinforcing that extensor
Yeah.
tone,
Yeah.
plain and simple. And
It's
they're
be
gonna
dramatic
go,
now.
so they're, not only are their back, and not only is his back gonna go into extension, so are his hips. And right off the end of the bed they go. So actually, it's not a safe, it's a safety hazard, in my opinion. So.